So, there's this movie.
Yep. It's the 24th in the American History series. W, I thought, was kind of a weak prelude leading up to this one, but X turned out to be alright.
I don't know if your smart-ass comments aside, that I have strange feelings of this movie just because, but I don't know if you ever met Hale when he was around here.
No, I knew where he lived.
He lived not
Lived
too
up on top of Creek Quarter, or right up that huge steep hill.
I met him a couple times when I was in high school. I mean, it's the same that, I don't know how to describe it. Cause
You're saying he was like the old man in this?
to some degree, yes, but he was a bit more of a smooth talker.
Oh, they play this guy off like, I mean, he got everybody involved in his shit.
Oops.
Oh well. It's on Blu-ray.
It's on, yeah. This is the first Blu-ray that I've come across in my collection. But yeah, he was a pretty smooth talker. I mean,
So was Hitler.
that's true, and that's what kind of is like the weirdest thing about most of the prominent Nazis that you hear about is they were all
Most,
really good.
like all cult leaders have to be, otherwise nobody would follow the dumbasses. Like, I don't know about smooth talker, but Manson had to at least have some sort of influence.
That's true. I'll give you, yeah.
Same with, Koresh.
Yeah, that's the other I was thinking of when you said cult leader. But I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen this.
Yep.
Probably about 10 years. I remember. The only thing I really remember about it, which I kind of liked, was when they do the flashbacks. The flashbacks are done in black and white. That's about really the only thing I remember about it. And the dinner scene.
Well, that's all you remember about it?
I mean, I remember the general plot of it, but like when I think about the movie, those are the things that stick out.
Mm. Curb stomp, yo.
Curb stomp.
Curb stomp.
Oh God. I remember watching
The
that.
sound of the fucking teeth on the concrete. Man, I could hear that in my head at any fucking time.
I remember watching that at Nick's house in the basement on surround sound. That thing, yeah. That people talk about like in Jaws when Quint runs his fingernails down the chalkboard, how that bothers people. The curb stomp bothers me more than that does.
That and the goddamn fingernail from Stir of Echoes.
I don't think I've
Heard, oh man, her fingernail breaks as she's being dragged across the hardwood. She digs her fingers in and her nail snaps. Not pleasant.
Another fingernail I can think of is Yoda's in episode 3. When he's fighting the Emperor and he's throwing the pods at him in the Senate room. Yoda clings to one like his 3 fingernails just scrape down the side of it. It's like
they don't like brutally break off.
No, that would be funny.
Like, I don't know. It was something about that Stir of Echoes scene. Hey, the movie hasn't even started. We're way straight off topic. And that curb stomp, though, it's just like, The Fly had that part where he was pulling off all of his fingernails, but that never bothered. Like, even as a kid, that shit didn't bother me.
The only thing I remember watching The Fly as a kid was trying to stay up late because that was like one of the first horror. Well, not I want to say one of my first memories of horror movies where there was an epic sex scene in it.
Yeah.
That's all I really and the baby at the end, the maggot. That's about all I really remember about Brundlefly. But
I always just, whenever I think of that, I just remember the fucking, this is how a fly eats, kids. That's the scene that I think.
But yeah, so this should be interesting.
And I'm sure we'll have lots of racist comments at the end.
Stay tuned for racism, yo. There's two things that I thought of while watching this movie.
Tits and ass.
No, you can see that in the first 5 minutes.
Lots of mangina.
Lots of mangina. But we've watched Oz, so we're kind of used to that, so that's nothing new.
Yeah. Kind of dull your senses to it.
That's
Yep,
true.
there's another penis.
Yep. One's really weird. This movie reminds me a lot of to some degree of Full Metal Jacket,
Why?
because it's almost like 2 separate movies in one.
But, well,
And Full Metal Jacket is sequential, where this is kind of spliced together. But I mean, because it's...
but it's, I don't know, it almost seems to be more flashback than,
Yeah, I noticed that too. I always thought there was less flashback than there actually was, but it's got to be at least 3/4 of the movie.
maybe. I mean, there's a lot before, well, I don't know. No, because technically that first scene's a flashback too.
That, and just watching it, not that actually no, Hollywood is stupid enough to try and do a sequel to this. If to some degree you kind of wonder if Vineyard Derek would have gone knowing who killed his brother, if that would drive him back.
See, now that was the thing that I always thought about when I watched the movie. It's like you go through the movie, it's like, yeah, you know, all this stuff's done, and then like then the black dude kills Edward Furlong. It's like, fuck that dude. But this time I noticed something that for some reason I never noticed before. Actually, noticed a couple things. One was they show, there's a couple scenes with that guy. Obviously, the first bathroom scene
Yeah.
that started the shit.
Then the basketball.
But then the basketball scene, they showed that basically they showed what I assume was his older brother basically telling him the same shit Derek was telling.
Yeah, and then when they do the drive-by at the house.
And it's the older brother again, so it's just like, now it's like, instead of fuck that kid, it's like, well, that kid was fucked by his own brother the same way Danny was.
Yeah, I never thought of that either.
So it's just like it's a different thing. They were both raised the exact same fucking way. Like one hates white people, one hates black people, but it was both because of their brothers.
Oh wow, I never picked up on that either. Wow.
Then the other thing was I always remembering agreeing, like with the second dinner scene, not the violent one, the one with the father.
Yeah.
I always thought I agreed with the father, but I only agree with one point of the father, which I always have agreed with and still do.
The affirmative action thing?
No, it should always be best man for the job. Like the most qualified applicant should get a job.
Right.
Like I don't care what color they are. The most I've worked with useless white fucking dudes, and I worked a lot of warehouse jobs, obviously. The best forklift driver I have ever seen was like one of the coolest black dudes I've ever hung out with.
Same here.
But, dude could fucking drive full speed and miss everything and was just never dropped a fucking thing. Amazing fucking worker. So that shit I agree with, but when he was bitching about Sweeney bringing in the black books and stuff, like what happened to the other books. Well, that shit, curriculum changes all the time. But the fact was, Derek was like enthused about that class. Like Sweeney got Derek interested in learning that shit. And like if a teacher does that, who gives a fuck what curriculum they're using?
And I think Sweeney got him hooked so good that, that you get the impression that even while he was in full-on rage mode, that he was still friends with Sweeney to some degree, because when he visited him in prison, wasn't like, "What are you doing here, nigger?"
Yeah, but I mean that was that still. We noticed that weird discrepancy with the timeline where
He's
the
friends.
same time he's becoming friends with that cool black dude, and which he should be in more movies. Seriously, like, he's fucking hilarious. And even like,
I forgot to look what his name was in the
yeah,
credits.
like he is awesome in that movie, and the fact that I haven't seen him in other things is just weird because he is great in that fucking movie.
Well, he's probably in a lot of like.
He almost seems like a stand-up comedian,
Yeah.
which I wonder if he is, because the way he was delivering his lines was so good. But he was becoming friends with that guy at the exact same time he was shunning the rest of his people for what up until this time, again, I hadn't paid attention. I always assumed it was just because the dude was dealing with the Mexicans and stuff like that. So he was shunning him because of that, but it's like, was it that, or was he starting just to see it was bullshit, just before he got raped in the shower?
The rape in the shower, I think, had a lot to do with it. But there's. I had to come off looking like an asshole. There's a lot. I mean, I get that racism's bad. I get that. But there's a lot of, in the dinner that I was remembering, there's a lot of what he talks about.
Well, just like the violence and all that shit.
The violence,
Well, that's the flip side of the coin, is that stereotypes exist for a reason, right? It's like,
right or wrong, they exist.
right. Well, yeah, there's a reason behind them. White people look stupid when they're dancing. Like the one, of course, that I don't really agree with is we can't keep a beat, because most drummers are actually white guys. But the dancing thing, yes, white people look stupid dancing. But just any stereotype comes from somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
fucking, like the Asians are bad at driving probably didn't come around because they never got into any accidents ever. And it's good or bad, it came from somewhere. It's not like I'm stereotyped as a fat guy as being the fastest dude around, right? Like, I'm a slow fat ass. That stereotype came around because, hey, guess what? There's some truth in that somewhere.
But
But it's a broad generalization.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are usually more exceptions than not to stereotypes.
Right, but like, I used to have these conversations with Melinda to some degree too. Like, it always struck me odd that how organized the gay and lesbian community got so quick. And you look at...
That's because,
Well, no.
Come on, let's stereotype. Gays are very organized people.
Generally, yeah.
They dress well, they organize well, they keep stuff clean and tidy.
But,
Bam!
but
Rally.
you look at the black community and it is so fractured and disorganized.
So is the white community.
Right, but...
I mean, we are just as fucked up in a different way. Like, obviously, or I want to say obviously, now I'll come out looking like a dick, but seems like more violence, right, more violence seems to stem, like black people kill black
Everybody.
people. Right, like they don't even give a shit. Like, you're in the wrong gang, which that's all gangs.
Right.
Everywhere.
There's
I mean,
Mexican
fucking
gangs
the skinheads hate white peoples that don't hate
conform
black
to them.
people. Yeah.
Right.
So it's the same shit. It's just, I think, I don't know, like white. I think the shit is more spread out, and white might be the reason.
Yeah.
You see more condensed populations. So.
Well, that, and I mean,
Fuck, I don't know.